Alright, so in addition to our previous tutorials with the render elements, we're going to go ahead and add our ambient occlusion. So we'll set this to about 450 using the ambient occlusion. And then something we haven't looked at in previous tutorials is using reflections and shadows to use in Photoshop. So we'll go ahead and right click, add reflection, and we'll also add shadows. So now the layers that we have, we'll be able to manipulate these in Photoshop. You see reflection gives us just the reflection of the objects, and then shadows will give us just the shadows. So let's go ahead and set this up for a final render. And then we'll take it into Photoshop. So once our render is finished processing, we'll go ahead and click and hold and save all the images to separate files again. And then we'll load it into Photoshop. Photoshop document open, we'll go ahead and load in all of the files. So we want the reflection, the shadows, and as well as our extra texture. So first thing we're going to look at is reflection. We'll change the blend mode to screen. As you can see, this brings out a lot of the reflections a lot more. So we'll make a new mask. And then we're just going to brush out some of the reflections. So with and without it, we'll look at the areas where we want the reflections. So we're mostly looking at wanting it on the bottom right hand corner here. It accentuates the reflections a lot more, as well as the right hand window. But other than that, this layer doesn't add too much to the scene, so we'll just go ahead and use the black brush tool to start erasing some of this. We want to keep this a little bit underneath the seats here, but for this top half we don't really want any of the reflection. We'll take it off the wall here as well. And it's using the opacity to make a smooth blend transition. So there you go, you can see with and without the reflection. And to add a bit of depth to the scene, we'll just erase it from the back here. There you go, so that's with and without it. Next one is shadows. You want to press Ctrl-I to invert it. And you can change the blend mode to multiply. As you can see, it brings out all of the shadows. So using the same thing, a layer mask. I think it's not that necessary for this scene in particular. So we will use it for some of the shadows on the tree here, so we'll just polish that up. And I think we'll remove the shadows mostly for the rest of the scene, because the default view already does quite good. The final layer, we're going to set it to multiply. We'll turn down the intensity slightly, so you can see without and with it. So in some of the areas around the stairs we want to keep this, so we're going to go ahead and enable our mask layer again. And you'll notice the sky doesn't export, so we'll go ahead and create our own sky by creating a new layer and selecting our gradient tool. You set the colors up of the sky. and holding down Shift and drag, you can set to the sky. And you can play around with these settings to get a more vibrant sky if you like. Maybe make it match the purple tones a bit more. So there's our sky. And then the final adjustment is using the camera raw filter to bring out some of that clarity. To again give a bit more realistic look. So go into basic. You see by bumping this up slightly, it makes it a little bit more realistic looking. And you can adjust some of the exposure and contrast properties of the scene. But there we go, so that's our final result.